Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy back with another update about how Blake Lively gets her own way on every single day, but still is probably a deeply unhappy person. So today I have help from the dog I am trying to settle into my home. The dog I have when I wasn't sure I was going to have another dog for some considerable time, but still ended up with. So if I seem a little bit all over the place, that's probably why. But I'm also probably a little bit all over the place because his lawsuit is a little bit all over the place. So I'd just like to reiterate today that anything I say is my own opinion. And anything I say about the legalities of it, I don't promise to be absolutely faithful because I'm not legally trained or anything like that. It's just my perception of what it is, and you can take it or leave it. I'm quite happy to do that. So after that preamble and that excuse, what I was going to say is I was going to ask you in a Jamie Kern-Lima and Meghan Markle type of way, how are you feeling right now? Because I'm feeling tired of it all. And it is like I mentioned in a comment to somebody the other day, I think we're all kind of experiencing narcissism by osmosis right now, because I think this case, if you're into truth and fairness and even-handedness and all of those things, I think there is something about this case and the narcissism that is coming across and feeding into people now. I was looking at Without a Crystal Ball's last video, and I thought she sounds tired, and I know she's got other things going on behind the scenes, but I just thought you can almost tell that she's exhausted of this case. And then there was a little Popcorn Planet video I watched, and Lauren from Court of Random Opinion was on there, and Omar and Zach Peter, and I thought they all looked and sounded tired of it. There was like a bit of defeatism. I think Omar seemed a bit disconnected, as if he wasn't even following at this point. Lauren kind of just had to keep reminding him what they were talking about. But that is like, if you're not sure ever, if you're dealing with a narcissist, if you feel really exhausted, if you feel like you need to take to your bed for a day or so, if you feel like your soul is being sucked out of you, then you probably are dealing with a narcissist. And if you certainly feel like you can never get a point across to somebody, never get them to see your point of view, then it's pretty much obvious that you're dealing with a narcissist. And as I explained the other day, if it's one rule for them and another rule for you, then you truly are probably dealing with a narcissist, or certainly somebody that doesn't allow you to have a voice and an opinion. And you will often get people in this life, I've experienced it myself. One of the worst things that my mother ever said to me, and one of the worst things you can ever say to anybody, is that your feelings don't matter because you're not in your right mind, or whatever it is. You might have heard some version of that during your life. Most people have, and it is one of the worst things you can say to a human being, that their feelings on something does not matter, and having those feelings kind of trodled all over, which does happen to us. But yeah, I think we're kind of all feeling that with this case to some extent. So where are we up to basically? So she got her own way, didn't she? And at this point, with the best will in the world, do we really think this judge is playing fair anymore? Do we really think there's no bias? I mean, what was so hard to ask about her going to Baldoni's team's office to sit for deposition? She is not the President of the United States. She does not require a beast motor vehicle and a cavalcade and an army and the rest of it in order to ensure her safety. She is not the big movie star that she really wants to portray herself as, which is literally what she's said in a recent filing about the financial things, is that her wages or earnings as a movie star cannot be computed to that extent. So this is where you're seeing your grandiosity again, because do you think Tom Cruise, or I know I bang on about Tom Cruise, but you think of like the likes of Al Pacino and all of these kind of people that seem pretty secure in themselves, that kind of consider acting to be what acting is, you know what I mean? Do you think they walk around in their own minds calling themselves movie star in their head? I don't think so. They're aware of that as something that they have to don to go to a premiere or a junket or whatever it is. But in the day-to-day life, your average movie star that has a pretty grounded real life is not going around considering themselves movie star as their personal identity. But I do think Blake Lively does. Which is why she can't take any attacks on it or any undermining of it, if you like. So I've got some notes I'm going to refer to, because I don't have an auto cue going. I don't have some fancy setup. I've been looking at my human design chart, and it's very accurate for me. I'm a generator. And it also says you're capable of taking in lots of information, but it can leave your mind just as fast as that. And it's literally kind of what I'm like. I'm just going to grab a tissue. Oh. I also don't like making cuts in my videos if I can help it, because, you know, I quite like talking to camera and all of that, but I don't like the whole editing and how long it takes me to upload to YouTube and all of that, and clipping stuff together. So I try to do it on the fly in one go if I can. Right, so let's talk about this financial thing. Wayfarer wanted all kinds of information, the same kind of information Blake Lively wanted from them in the case that has been dismissed, the counterclaim that got dismissed. They had to provide information of how they came to that 400 million figure and things like that. Well, of course, Blake Lively does not have to do that. She does not have to prove damages. And just like she wasn't willing to provide evidence from her medical records to support her severe emotional distress claim, she's not willing to provide financial information across the board for these claims. I believe there's also a claim, you could correct me if I'm wrong, that isn't there somewhere in those claims that she claimed her children were, I don't know what the wording was, damaged by this lawsuit. And I think, from what I remember off the top of my head, is that she has to prove that at some point. How is she going to prove her children's emotional distress due to this? So Blake, in essence, is saying that Wayfarer are greedy. They're being greedy, asking for this excess financial information from her. Wayfarer want her to prove the financial challenges she's experienced as a result of her alleged defamation. So they want information about Betty Buzz and Blake Brown, I guess, and her movie income that is supposedly, possibly under threat. So she claims that she's already agreed to provide what she has access to. So I had a little thought. You know, it's basically saying the documents she has control over when it comes to her businesses. And that kind of sparked a little thought in my head. And my intuition is often really good. Again, it says in my human design chart that I am very intuitive. Not bigging myself up and being a narcissist, but it's part of my work as well. Part of my work with rapid transformational therapy is to get scenes from the client's past and kind of collate it like a detective and feed it back to them and see if life is different now from what it was back then when they needed the coping strategies they had. So I do have to do this in my day-to-day work. I have to listen to people's words and kind of pull like subconscious meaning behind it, or intuit things from it, or put what we call daisy chaining things together. So sometimes when I'm reading this stuff, I kind of get a little inkling about maybe what the emotion is behind it, or what's driving it, or my little suspicious Capricorn brain gets going on something. So I wondered, in terms of her businesses, and we know many of these celebrities have these businesses or write books that are either ghost written or very little to do with them, or they have a perfume fragrance that literally just was presented to them and they sniff a few and say which one they liked and then they call it their fragrance. We know these kinds of things are going on. We're not stupid, and some celebrities will have more input than others. And Blake claims, doesn't she, particularly with Betty Buzz, and well, I don't know how she can claim Betty Booze when she doesn't drink alcohol, but Betty Buzz, she claims to be the mixologist in the house, doesn't she? And she puts these flavour combos together and it's just like what she drinks at home that they've made for themselves and all of that. So when it comes to documents to do with her businesses, and she'll provide documents she has control over, my little brain goes, I wonder how much she actually does have control over. I wonder how much of her own businesses she actually knows about. And does she not want that getting out? Hey, don't you start scrabbling on my floor. She's about to start making all kinds of noise rubbing on the carpet. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, how hands-on is she in these businesses? How much of an entrepreneur is she? How much does she not want us to know, in effect? How many documents does she actually control? How much does she know about the financial back end of her own companies? It may not be very much at all. So she doesn't want anyone either to know the net worth of her movie star in her words, earnings. And again, I wonder, is that more, she doesn't, you see, like a narcissist will not want to give power or information to anybody that they're in opposition with. They have to win the game. And she doesn't want to be seen as less than in anybody's eyes, not the Wayfarer parties and certainly not in our eyes. So she doesn't want you really to know what her net earnings are as a movie star, because you might then go compare them to the likes of Scarlett Johansson, is she currently #1 top earning out in the top earning movies or whatever the other day, you know what I mean? Movie star versus movie star, that's not going to look good, is it? It's not, you know. So she doesn't want to say what her earnings have been or attempt any kind of projection going forwards about what those earnings would look like. She insists that would take an expert to generate some kind of forecast, I guess. So she doesn't want you to know about her movie star earnings, and I wonder if that's because just they're not that impressive in comparison to other people. And I did wonder, in a very naughty way, as Capricorns do, they're kind of very blunt and they just think what they think, and they often speak a little bit too plainly. But I did just wonder if some of this business information might make it look more like a husband-funded vanity project of some kind. That kind of did roll around in my head. I'm not sure what you all would be thinking, but she wouldn't want any kind of implication like that revealed. She wants you to think that she's powerful and has her fingers in all kinds of pies and is this creative force. So she doesn't want any implication that there's any kind of weakness, basically. She just doesn't want those details revealed. You know, she couldn't prove severe emotional distress when it came to medical records. Can she prove that business or those businesses weren't already struggling before all of this? Can she prove that there wasn't money being funneled in from Ryan Reynolds to fund certain things or pay for certain launches, or how much of this business is being done mafia style? Like, does she actually pay maximum effort productions when she does her launches or whatever it is, or her junkets? You know, how much of this business is getting done for free or for favours or the rest of it? She doesn't want you to know anything like that. And as I say, all of this is just conjecture on my part. It's kind of to cheer you all up, because honestly, the hits just keep on coming, don't they? It's like the judge just kind of basically lets anything go by at this rate. So I think it's on us content creators to kind of jizz us all up a bit, and let's, if we can't actually get anywhere in court, let's have a little bit of fun, just kind of batting some ideas around and seeing what we think about things. So can she prove this severe financial distress in her business records? And she's, pushing it down to this fact. It'll take her financial matters are so complex. She's such a mogul. She's so powerful that it would take a forensic analysis of some kind, an expert witness, to look at all of it. And, because who's to say it doesn't end up being $1 billion enterprise, Blake Lively, Blake L Inc., or whatever she wants to call it going forward. But I mean, in the words of Bryan Cranston, what was it he said as Walter? It was, looks like someone cooked here, or words to that effect. It makes you wonder if that's what's going on in the background. There's going to be this, she's going to have to make it look exceptional. She doesn't, that's the problem for Blake Lively, really, in this court case, is she needs to look weak in order to get damages and to be seen as the victim. But at the same time, being perceived as weak is the last thing that she and Ryan ever want to be perceived at. That's why she has to turn it into this being the saviour of women and girls and all of that. She can't be seen to be weak, even when she's alleged to have been SH'd or whatever the rest of it is. And it's funny, isn't it? There's less and less talk of the whole SH thing from the Blake Lively camp. It's like a non-issue. It's still an issue in other things, but it's not really being talked about very much at all in Blake Lively's side of things. But to me, surely it's simple to prove what she had been capable of earning before the alleged start of the defamatory campaign compared to what she considers her standing right now. It shouldn't be that complicated, I don't think. And the other thing that I did wonder was, does she not want us to know that there are no movie offers on the table for her right now? Is there any evidence that Body Mist launch was successful? Is there any evidence that the new Betty Buzz flavours were successful? Because all of this, if they hadn't done well, it might support her claims that she's been damaged, but it also makes her look weak. It makes her look like she can't pull things off. It makes her look like her narrative in being this movie star is not accurate and may never have been accurate, depending on your opinion. So you don't get to know her net worth, basically, but content creators, she gets to have your banking information and your credit card information. Of course she does, because she's Blake Lively and you're you. That's the way it goes. And no, I haven't been subpoenaed today, but I am aware of the astrologist that had did she have less than 300 subscribers and got this subpoena? Even though she's just applying astrology to the legal filings and looking at how the stars align in terms of that. And I'm thinking, I've got over 200 now. I'm almost looking like a threat to Blake Lively. In the back of my mind, it's thinking, what the heck would I do if this turned up for me? Be interesting, I guess. And that's the other thing, isn't it? She's still trying to come up with some backstories as to why she might not show up for this deposition on the 17th. And right now she's accusing them of requesting all of this financial information being presented ahead of her deposition as a stalling tactic on their part. That they want to derail her deposition by requesting this financial information. And, it's like, how many excuses does this girl need to not show up for this deposition? You know what I mean? And she truly does think she's fooling us all. She really, really does. And again, it's that thing, isn't it? That tired old argument that they keep saying that every aspect of Justin's lawsuit, everything he asks for, every time he tries to defend himself, it has to be wanting information in order to cause a public spectacle. They must want her financial information in order to humiliate her. They can't possibly want it in order to try and prove their case or support an argument or defend themselves or anything like that. It has to be an attack on her. And this is what I'm saying over people like your average person, like Ashley, Brianna, Eve, who's covering this, like Lauren, like Omar, even when he's a lawyer. It's absolutely tiring listening to this crap. It's like sometimes when I come to do these things or read the things on the docket, I'm like, do I really want this in my head? Do I want to stir that up in my body, that feeling of injustice? And oftentimes I don't, but I kind of feel like at 52 videos now, when I thought the thing was going to go away in a week, that it was going to be something that I would just make 1 or 2 random videos about out of interest, and I got sucked into keeping it going because I'd started it. Nobody wants this, I don't think. I mean, I know Perez Hilton's kind of enjoying it, and when this goes away, I'm not sure what he's going to latch on to next, but it's interesting, isn't it? He identifies as a narcissist, Perez Hilton, and he does derive a lot of joy out of this situation, doesn't it? And he does also he seems to very much be enjoying this idea that she hasn't managed to subpoena him yet, that if they seek him here, they seek him there, that kind of thing, that she hasn't got hold of him yet, and that kind of just shows you how narcissism works. No matter what happens, there's enjoyment in it. There's pleasure derived from it. So Blake and Ryan can claim hardship all they like and that, but all of that is, all this negative energy is still fueling something to them. They still get something out of them. They turn anything into a way to feel more powerful. So all of this is just more fuel to them, really. And then we've got more Leslie Sloane stuff, haven't we? She's kind of filed a motion or a letter just to justify her they've made a counter filing Wayfarer's side of things to say why she can't use New York's anti-SLAPP against them in order to get her 1.7 million expenses paid. So Leslie's countered that through her team, saying that they had no receipts, they were all bluster, that this was a malicious filing, they had no proof. She should get to use state law in a federal court because she feels it's fair for that law to accommodate her, because she believes it in her. She doesn't believe it was frivolous, but that's what she's saying, that Wayfarer's claims, its attempt to defend itself, was frivolous. That is what her claim is. She claims there are no facts that link her to defamatory acts. So, and that's when the Daily Mail, even just recently, in some little comment at the bottom of something, reiterated that Justin Baldoni is in an SA case with Blake Lively, not an SH claim, an SA claim. And where did that SA thing come from? Allegedly, it came from Leslie Sloane in communication with James Vituska of the Daily Mail. And Daily Mail are so dumb, they're still putting that out on their site. So where's the truth? Basically, where is the truth? Because it's like somebody else said, I can't think who it was, that if you Google Justin, you're going to keep coming up with SA in relation to him. Where is the truth of where the SA accusation came from? And the thing is, Leslie Sloane did help coordinate the messaging that got out to the public. Even if she didn't say the words, she rather gleefully spread the message around. She was in talks with people like Melissa Nathan, agreeing to one, and Stephanie Jones, I think, from what I remember, off the top of my head, could be wrong, agreeing to do one thing, and then she was going to the press. We know she was doing that. And Wayfarer's claim was not just about that one SA message. that went between James Vertuska and Leslie Sloane, where James Vertuska says, and now she's claiming, essay, why didn't she mention anything about that before? Basically, it wasn't just about that one thing, it was about a larger pattern of media coordination. Like I said, saying one thing to Melissa Nathan and another to media outlets, and that was at the time of the movie premiere, all the promo, all of that damage she was doing. It's like everybody, it's like trying to bring the logic back, isn't it? It made no sense for Justin to be waging a campaign against Blake Lively at the time his movie was coming out, because if she went tits up, his movie went tits up. So it literally makes zero sense. The only person that was literally out there damaging that movie and casting doubt on the relationship between Blake and Justin were people like Leslie Sloane, painting Justin as abusive and as retaliatory and as somebody who was some kind of method character actor that was on that movie set, stomping about, saying that the narcissistically abused, or the whatever it was, domestically abusive male character was the main force of that film, and it had to be his perspective, not the female perspective, which was absolutely nuts, because the whole thing started with Justin's deep desire to make it all about from the feminine gaze, which is what bloody annoyed me in the first place. And it's like, but all of it, and this is what's tiring, because it's narcissism in full effect, because we know it makes no sense. We can't make logic out of it. It's so hard to fight, because it's like trying to grasp hold of thin air or smoke or whatever you want to call it. We know it's totally nuts in your conscious, rational mind, and yet it still evades all kind of capture and, being held to account and all the rest of it. Leslie Sloane, this is the thing, they kind of want something on one hand and state a case, but on the other hand, they take away their own argument, or they verify their own argument in a way, because Leslie Sloane has acknowledged that she was in New York talking to New York-based outlets as a part of her motion to get claims. So she's admitting to being in New York and stirring the pot, but painting herself as a helpless PR person, who knew nothing other than what she was told, and why wouldn't she believe that, when really what she is a top tier gatekeeper who is absolutely in the strategy room at all times. So she wants to claim that anti-slap where you can't come back against her for defamation or anything like that, because how was she to know it's not true and all of that? But at the same time, she's saying really that she did it, that she talked to people. So how can it be then malicious that Wayfarer, involved her in their legal case? Wayfarer feels she was very key in shaping that New York Times article, and I think all of us believe that. So how can it be frivolous to file against her? Why should they have to pay for her legal expenses? She very much involved herself in all of this. I think a lot of this was done very gleefully on the part of their side of things, the Lively Reynolds camp. How Ryan stomped around casting predator around all over the place. That's done with great glee, with great enjoyment, to do maximum effort damage, basically. So if Judge Liman, in his wisdom, grants Leslie Sloane this permission to get her legal fees, then it sets a precedent for Blake to get her legal fees, for Ryan to get his legal fees, and also possibly for Melissa Nathan to get hers on the other side of things. It sets a precedent, in my humble, unlegal opinion, for any PR person to spread any kind of defamatory narrative, as long as you believe the person that told you that that hearsay, and you can be protected by anti-slap, and you can call it freedom of speech. And like Ryan did with, I had every right to believe my wife. Do we really think that Ryan Reynolds believes his wife was SH'd? Possibly in the beginning. Do we really believe that Ryan Reynolds still believes his wife was SH'd by Justin Baldoni? And that's also where the narcissistic aspect comes in too, because for your average moral person, right, say you're in a marriage and your wife tells you that she's been SH'd or SA'd by a boss in an environment, you'd be fuming, wouldn't you? You wouldn't go make a movie about that and make him a character in your movie. You'd be fuming if you were the husband, wouldn't you? But I don't think you'd handle it like Ryan Reynolds. Sorry, I had to sneeze for a minute. Yeah, what you wouldn't do is you wouldn't, I'm gonna try not to laugh. You wouldn't, say you found out afterwards that didn't happen, that she was upset about something else, and she said it in the heat of a moment. She told a lie, and it spun out of control and it became something else. Your average moral person would hold the wife to accountability, and you'd know that you had to take it on the chin, and you'd know that you had to do the right thing, or you'd know you had to go and apologise or make restitution or whatever it is. But this is where a narcissist is different, because they don't feel any compunction to do any of that. Even when it turns out they do actually find the truth, that it's a wife or a husband, it can go either way, that made a mistake, that said something they shouldn't have done, that lied. We've all been in situations in our life where we've done something, regretted it, it's blown into a whole other thing. But the difference between an average person and your narcissist is an average person will try to put it right in some way. Doesn't have to be perfect, but they will do something in order to try make good on it. A narcissist will just stick to that narrative and keep with it, even though there's information back there in the mind that says this is false, this is a lie. There's like a disconnect that can happen in order for them to still win, basically. So that is what we're dealing with, and that's why everybody's getting so tired, and that's why it will be really, really upsetting if Liman does give Leslie Sloane her expenses and sets that precedent. And can you imagine the cases that will come up after that, where people will expect to get their legal fees paid? I wonder what's going on right now at this moment. Team Baldoni, what are they thinking here? Is this? I've lost a bit of track. I'm not sure if there's still time for them to appeal the dismissal of their own case. What are they thinking here? Because at this point they must be thinking, do we have to do something about this judge? Like I say, I don't know the legal side of things, but to most of us lay people, it does look like the judge is very biased, because whenever he gives a little bit to Wayfarer, it's always there's half of it that's been rejected and half of it's been approved, whereas Blake Lively just seems to mostly get blanket approvals. So there must be a question on Team Baldoni: are we going to have to do something to tackle this judge, or do we have to wait till next year, do the case, and then appeal the whole thing if the verdict doesn't go our way? It'd be interesting to know, wouldn't it, what's cogitating in the background in terms of a plan? Because they must be feeling a bit disheartened at this point. They must be feeling like it's quite biased. And it's kind of just the disheartening thing, isn't it, that Blake Lively can spout off about freedom of speech and being able to protect her privacy and her rights, but content creators and Justin Baldoni, they don't get those same rights, and that's what's going on. And yeah, the only other thing I was going to comment on today was, I know there's something going on now between some of the content creators. I know there's like an accusation against Katie Joy at Without a Crystal Ball versus I don't know her name because she's private, the lady that does Not Actually Golden, and the two of them are in some kind of beef over, I think there's been a little bit of falling out over, without Not Actually Golden said that Katie without a crystal ball is not a credible person when it comes down to some of the legalities or interpreting them, I guess. And I don't know the rights and wrongs of that, but it's a bit of a shame really that the content creators get into a beef with each other. And it's like I say, like over people listening to me or people listening to Without a Crystal Ball, Not Actually Golden, whoever, Popcorn Planet, whatever. Take information from all of these sources and make your own mind up about it. Don't go with any one person. That's what you should be doing. You should be listening to it all with an open mind and not taking it as gospel and just interpreting it for yourself, taking what you want. Do with it what you will, but keep an open mind, keep an open mind even that Blake Lively might have an accurate point every once in a while. Make your own mind up about it. But yeah, it'd be a real shame if content creators fell out over personality clashes when we're all trying to be just, dealing with the truth and going for fairness and justice and all the rest of it. It would only serve Blake Lively's narrative if people fall out about it based on differences of personality and differences of opinion. And the thing is about people like Not Actually Golden and Without a Crystal Ball is the very focused on the details and the very much this is what it is. So for Not Actually Golden to come out and say Katie Joy wasn't credible, I'm not saying that what Katie Joy did in return, because apparently there's an accusation of doxing and trying, Not Actually Golden wants her privacy, doesn't want her personal business, wrapped up with her TikTok presence. But, just knock it on the head, ladies, you know what I mean? Don't go down the Swanee. There's plenty out there, isn't there, that is attacking Without a Crystal Ball. And I don't know the truth of a lot of that. But all I know is, as a layperson, I found it very informative, her content. And it's made it more digestible, I think, to understand. But do I say that's actually the law, her opinion, it's exactly as it... No, I enjoy her content, I would say. And I think it breaks it down for us lay people in a quite interesting way that doesn't, add too long videos or anything like that. Not Actually Golden tends to do it in these short bursts, and she's very much, and she doesn't tend to lean one way or the other way. She's often more difficult to listen to for us that are Team Baldoni, I guess. But yeah, let's not all fight. Let's not all fall out about it. Let's not harm each other. Let's keep attention where it should be. Anyway, you let me know your thoughts of the day and how you're feeling. Are you starting to feel that tiredness coming through the screen to you? Is it taking up too much of your thoughts? Can you feel like a response in your body to the unfairness of it all? You let me know. And please do hit that like and subscribe and share if you can. I love to read your comments. So please let me know, and I will see you again soon.